Hello and welcome to TelecomTV. I'm Martin Warwick and we're here at the OPNFV Summit in Berlin in Germany, where I'm joined by Heather Kirksey, who is the Director of OPNFV. Heather, welcome and great to see you again.
Thank you.
And next to you, yeah, danke. That's about it. And Dr. Prodip Sen, who is CTO Network Functions Virtualization at HP Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and he's also the chair of the OPNFV Board of Directors. Prodip, great to see you again too, and welcome.
Great to be
keep
here.
Meeting in various parts of the world, Germany this time. Now, OPNFV plays a special role in testing upstream projects, which is very unusual, atypical for an open source group. Given this special role, can you give us a quick update about where the industry is as far as NFV testing is concerned?
Yeah. So you're right, it is a special role that we play. We put a far more greater focus on testing and also testing upstream projects integrated with each other to realize NFV features at a system level. So it's testing that OpenStack can't do on its own, OpenDaylight can't do on its own. We're well positioned to sort of test across those things. And you know, it's one of the key things in our project. And you know, in terms of the state of it, it's going well, but we could always use more. We could always use more testers to come out and automate the tests and to get the tests automated in our continuous integration, continuous deployment systems as well.
Yeah, and one thing to note is that through this testing, something which we were surprised ourselves by is, for example, the amount of testing we've been doing as we move from release to release. And for example, in this last release, when we were releasing it, the number of times OpenStack was installed and tested is sort of off the charts. It's nowhere else has it been done that frequently and that rigorously. So,
thank you. Now, before we go any further, can I ask you to explain to me and to the audience exactly what OPNFV is? And sometimes the distinction that is made or isn't made between that and OpenNFV. Because people say quite often, which is which?
So OPNFV, which stands for the Open Platform for NFV, is the open source project where we come together and collaborate in an open source fashion on NFV software.
And HPE's open ecosystem working on NFV is what is called HPE OpenNFV. The name actually predates the formation of OPNFV, but when we formed OPNFV, we didn't think to change the name to avoid confusion. I like to pronounce them differently. I clearly pronounce OPNFV or OpenNFV for our own ecosystem. But
thank you. That does clear it up, and we've got it on tape now, so we know what's what. Let's continue. HPE has contributed the most recent news to the world of testing with your announcement about joining the Pharos lab. So Prodip, what's prompted HPE to be part of that lab now? Why now at this time rather than any other?
Yeah, so we've been, as I said, the HPE OpenNFV program predated the formation of OPNFV, so we've been working in this ecosystem and building our labs, testing in our labs for some time now. And then when OPNFV was formed, obviously we are part of OPNFV, we're an active member, but because we had already started internally doing things in our own way, it took a little while to really make sure how we need to bring what we've been doing back into the community. So rather than trying to stop and restart things, we're just letting things proceed in parallel, and meanwhile figuring out how do we bring our own testing experience back into the open source. And this is the time where they've come together. We've been able to marshal the resources, configure the things appropriately so that now we can be part of the Pharos lab. But the intention was always there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just say, our Pharos lab project within OPNFV is, and I think it's one of the coolest things we do, where people like HPE bring labs to the project with resources and lab management skills so that we can deploy the our software in a bunch of different environments and on a bunch of different hardware and hardware architectures, so that we ensure that the software that we're working on is fully portable and can work in a lot of different environments. So it's one of the coolest things about our project. They're connected in automated ways via Jenkins, and I'm really excited that y'all are bringing one in and bringing in your expertise.
Right, and I think we have now about a dozen labs all across the world. And this is a great accomplishment, I think, for the OPNFV project, that now we have a dozen worldwide labs which people can go on and work on the OPNFV platform, run their functions on, test things out, and do it in a globally collaborative way.
Excellent, thank you. Heather, one for you. What are your thoughts on how vendor-led ecosystems contribute more to OPNFV?
Yeah, I mean, from the point of view of the open source project, we're wanting to build a platform that can be applicable to a wide range of applications and use cases. And so we're sort of coming from that kind of bottom-up platform perspective, whereas some of the vendor ecosystems, are looking at these validated solutions. So, I mean, I think really, as more individual solutions get tested on the platform, we'll see where it, falls down, or where it works better, or maybe we find interoperability bugs with various applications and focus on specific use cases. So I mean, I think you'll be in a position to discover things in your testing that can be brought back as patches and blueprints and help the community.
That's right, and the point is that as we're working on open source and developing pieces of what need to be there for the NFV solution. The NFV solutions are a wider set of things required when you actually want to deploy it, all the way from just having the functionality to being able to operate it, manage it, deploy it. And some of these things we are doing in the open source, but again, we're doing bits and pieces of it. When in an open ecosystem like HP's OpenNFV, we try to look at solution end to end and see how to build, deploy, and operate it. And so some of that experience where we're running into issues, we're finding ways to get around those things, that's what we can bring back into the open source community to help develop tools, to help develop techniques to address those problems. And that's, as I mentioned in my keynote this morning, that's one of the steps we're taking by taking a first step on working on onboarding and trying to integrate what we've been learning about onboarding with what's happening in OPNFV and having a uniform onboarding process. So that's just the first step in trying to go through the full life cycle of the service deployment.
Sometimes people think that your commercial solutions and open source are at odds with each other. They get very distracted by the free and free and open source software. But I mean, commercial solutions are really how most people end up consuming open source software. And I always encourage people to think about the open source bit as being sort of communal R&D, so that the larger industry the developers can work together, so we get more stuff written more quickly. But it's not necessarily a delivery model, so to speak.
Prodip, staying with you for another minute. HPE's OpenNFV ecosystems is continuing to grow, as you mentioned. Obviously, playing a part in the Faroes Lab project is one big thing. What about the other things your ecosystem is working on right now?
So as I mentioned, we're really looking at solutions and solution building end to end. So things like the VNF onboarding I mentioned are just one part of it. But when you look at the entire solution for one or set of use cases, there are many other things we need to look at. Involves how to operate it, how to troubleshoot the platform, how to monitor and make sense of what's happening in the network. Our networks are getting more and more complex, and as we start to introduce these kinds of software-defined techniques in there, they're inherently going to become complex from an operational perspective. Part of it because of unfamiliarity. How do I deal with this software-based system as opposed to dealing with a box, and I know that's something's wrong with that box. So we need to find ways to help the operations folks deal with this issue of complexity. And what that means is developing tools, developing automation to address these problems. And some of it is what we're doing internally. Some of it is what we're going to be doing, relying on open source to provide us with.
Okay, thank you. Finally then, I'd like to talk to you about the collaboration that you're all involved in, and this collaboration of communities, as you put it, Prodip. It's obviously very important. What are the results that you're seeing as the whole initiative continues to grow? What results are you seeing?
We're seeing we're seeing our releases come out. We're seeing bugs and patches and blueprints get accepted upstream. We're seeing the platform become better and more resilient and over time. And what I'm really seeing is a growing community of people who are learning how to work with each other very well. In my keynote this morning, I talked about the importance of the fact that we're collaborating across company boundaries, across vendors and service providers, across geopolitical different parts of the world, across country boundaries, and different technical perspectives, and that bringing all that together, I think, is just an extraordinary thing to see. And
the great evidence of this is just these last couple of days when we had our design summit, and co-located with that we had several mini summits from other open source communities who are working in the field, and they were all here, and because these were being run together and in the same place, same time, there was a lot of opportunity for cross-fertilization. People were attending each other's sessions, asking questions, engaging in the discussion. I think what we've witnessed these couple of days, and hopefully continues through the rest of the summit, is evidence of this collaboration, and is evidence of OPNFV being a good forum for this collaboration, I think.
Well, for those, obviously nobody can see it, but outside here where the event is taking place, the number of delegates, the intensity of the discussion, and the sheer size of it now is growing quickly. It's very evident that what's happening seems to be the right thing to be happening. And I'd just like to say, great to see you both again. Prodip Sen and Heather Kirksey, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to be here.